Well, as you may remember, or you may not remember, there's two things Mr. Leggett does every morning. One, have a couple of good cups of coffee. Who can think of a synonym for coffee? A synonym, remember, is a word that means the same. Java is one. Some people could just probably say Starbucks. Give me a Starbucks. But no, you might not get coffee. You might get a hot chocolate or something like that. You know what some people call coffee? Joe. Give me a cup of Joe. And that's my name. Isn't that interesting? All right, one of the other things I like doing every morning, and sometimes you see me walking around with one of these, is a newspaper. And this is the San Diego Union Tribune. Sometimes I get the last Riverside Press Enterprise. But one of the parts of the paper that I like to read is the comics, and it's kind of a good thing to read the comics because we're doing a lesson about inference, what we can infer. And comics, to make them funny, they don't say like directly what's happening. You have to do a little bit of inference. You have to like determine what's going on, because that's what makes it funny. If they would just stated what was going on and explained it to you, you wouldn't think it was funny. So, Mr. Leggett, can we please read my favorite comic strip? What is your favorite comic strip, Math Mutt? I love Marmaduke. He's a big Great Dane. I had a feeling you'd like that one best, so I got it out for you right here. Would you like to read it to the class? Yes, I will. Here's the picture, and maybe I'll hold it up close to camera. So there is the picture. We see what's going on. So it says, you're not as well hidden as you think. So there's Marmaduke. You see, it's funny. You see, because he just has a little blanket over his head. I love the Marmaduke. Well, yeah, it is funny because you can clearly see, yes, he's not hidden at all. Just the blanket just covers his head. He probably did something bad, like got the dinner or tipped over a lamp or bit the postman. He did not bite the postman. Marmaduke never bites anybody. I know, I just threw that in there to be funny. But that's very funny. I like very much. Okay, and we can infer this. It's funny because you can see that Marmaduke's is not as well hidden as he thinks he is. Now, if that was explained, it wouldn't be as funny, right? So let's go to another comic that I know Princess Yvonne loves, the comic called Dennis the Menace. Oh, that was one of my favorites when I was a kid, too. I loved Dennis the Menace. Would you like to read that for us, Princess Yvonne? Yes, I would. Would you hold up comic close to camera so boys and girls can see? Yes, I will, Princess Yvonne. Okay, let me see you get Dennis the Menace in there. There he is. It looks like Dennis is on the phone. His mom's saying something. Would you read it for us, Princess Yvonne? Yes. Okay, the mother, Dennis's mom, says, "Who was that on the phone?" And Dennis, he says, "Some guy wanted your credit card. Don't worry, I didn't give it to him. I just gave him the numbers. Oh no, that's even worse, or just as bad." Oh, Dennis, he is such a character. He does things that aren't always right most of the time. Yeah, and it's funny because Dennis, in this case, I think he's being helpful. He thinks he's being helpful. He's not being naughty. He thinks that he's doing the mom the favor because he didn't give the credit card, actual credit card to the guy on the phone, which would be pretty impossible to do, but he gave him the numbers, which could lead to some charges happening that Mrs. I don't know Dennis's last name, that Dennis's mom doesn't want to happen. Yes, and that's what makes it funny. You don't have to explain it. It's just funny because you can infer that the man on the phone was not a very nice person. And he got credit card. And, well, hopefully Mrs. Dennis's mom will call credit card company and say, don't accept any charges. But it makes me laugh. Dennis, he's so silly. Yes, he is. And thank you, Princess Yvonne, for reading that to us. And one of my favorite cartoons is The Wizard of Id. And it's been around for a long time, and I like reading that cartoon, but Calculating Cat doesn't like comics. He's very serious when it comes to language arts, and he wants to get to the language arts lesson. All right, Calculating Cat, we'll do that. So today we're talking about inference, what we can infer from this story. And if you
have it, please turn to page 7. If you don't, you can follow along. And some of the notes we took is Paul's mind is on something other than school. And we're talking about inference here in this story. Okay, what we can infer that's going on with the characters. So let's go to paragraph 6 on page 7. It says, in Paul's room, an oral examination was about to take place. We'll begin alphabetically, Mrs. Ogle announced. So we're going to determine how Mrs. Ogle's emotions are, what this third-person narrative reveals. So, question number 1, she said in her crisp voice. So she sounds very serious. With all books closed, explain to the class which is older, the earth or the sea, and where the first forms of life appeared. We'll begin with Teddy Appleyard. Teddy stood up, pointing to a blood-splotched handkerchief he held to his nose. He was promptly excused. Well, what can we infer about Teddy here? That he's got a bloody nose, right? It doesn't say he had a bloody nose. It just said a blood-splotched handkerchief he held to his nose. It didn't say Teddy had a bloody nose. We have to infer that. He was promptly excused. Now then, Paul Beebe. Beebe? Beebe. I think it's just pronounced Beebe. I went to do some British kids in my hometown. They were named Beebe, their last name. So let's just call it Beebe. Now then, Paul Beebe, you are next. Dead silence. Will begin, the teacher raised her voice, with Paul Beebe. And she stretched the name out like a rubber band, but even then it didn't reach him. So what can we start inferring about Mrs. Ogle? Is she happy about Paul's performance? I don't think so. Let's continue reading. He was not there in the little white schoolhouse at all. In his mind, he was back at Pony Ranch, and Misty had broken out of her stall and gone roaring down the marsh. And in his fantasy, he saw the colt being born, and while it was all wet and new, it was sucked slowly down into the misty bog. There was no sound, no whimper at all, just the wind squeaking through the grasses. Tap, tap, Mrs. Ogle rapped her pencil sharpener on the desk. Boys and girls, she said, you have all heard of people suffering from nightmares, but I declare Paul Beebe is having a daymare. So she's definitely not happy about Paul. Maybe she's not too upset, but I think she's kind of annoyed that Paul is not taking this very seriously at all. So we're going to do read a few more paragraphs to see what we can infer about the characters. Let's go to paragraph 1. The day at school seemed never ending. Maureen answered her questions like a robot. Remember that simile? She heard her own voice say, Christopher Columbus was one of the first men who believed the world was round, so he went east by sailing west. Very good, Maureen. You may sit down. But Maureen examined and remained standing, staring fixedly at the map over the blackboard. Her mind suddenly went racing across the world and backward in time to a tall masted ship. Not the one that Columbus sailed, but the one that brought the ponies to Assateague. And she saw a great wind come up, and she watched it slap the ship onto a reef and crack it open like the shell of an egg. Another simile. And she saw the ponies spewed in the sea, and she heard them thrashing and screaming in all the wreckage, and one looked just like Misty. I said, the teacher's voice cut through the dream, you may sit down, Maureen. So we can infer here, even though it doesn't say anything like this, it doesn't say Maureen was not interested in school. Maureen was too busy thinking about her horse Misty, about to give birth to her foal. It doesn't say that, does it? But we can infer that Maureen is not having a very focused day at school, that she's thinking about other things. And we can also see the same from Paul, didn't we? We even took notes. Paul's mind is on something other than school. So we get to see that Mrs. Ogle is perturbed, or annoyed, concerned maybe about Paul Beebe's behavior. But then we can also infer how a non-human is feeling. So we can go to paragraph, where are we? Paragraph what did I say? Oh, paragraph 14. Back home in Misty's shed, all was warm contentment. There was plenty of hay in the manger, good hay with here and there some sweet bush clover, and a block of salt hollowed out for many lickings so that her tongue just fitted. She worked at it now in slow delight, her tongue strokes stopping occasionally as she turned to watch a little brown hen rounding out a nest in a corner of the stall. Fearlessly, the hen let Misty walk around her as if she liked company, and every now and again she made soft clucking sounds. So here we go. We can see that Misty is doing fine. Nowhere does it say Misty's doing great. It just says, back in Misty's shed all was warm contentment. We have to determine that Misty's not worried at all about giving birth to the new pony, or the foal, called Stormy, I think it's going to be called. Maybe that's why Paul and my Maureen was daydreaming about a storm. So part of Language Arts lesson today is make sure you get 25 minutes of Imagine Learning and 25 minutes of IXL Math. And then you'll be watching a little film clip I'm going to try to find on those horses, an ossetig. Maybe I'm not even pronouncing that correctly. So I look forward to seeing you again real soon, I hope. Bye for now.